Good Monday. Hello everyone out there. You can see the handsome face of Jay Brew isn't with us today. We have a substitute teacher, Dr. Ed. Jay's out of town a couple days this weekend. He asked me to keep the tradition of Good Monday going, so I'm happy to join you. He told me I could speak about anything I wanted, and taking the theme of the substitute teacher, I thought it'd be a good idea to go back to a college classroom and discuss, in my view, what is going to be guiding bank policy in 2013, and that's the unemployment rate. Jay and I have been talking about the economy recently, and we thought this picture would serve as a metaphor for something that's broken. And in this case, what's broken is the link between GDP growth and unemployment. While our GDP growth isn't very high, it's going to be somewhere between 2 and 3% for the year in 2013, and maybe a little bit better in 2013. We're just not getting the job growth that's usually associated with that kind of GDP growth. So our view is that there's a broken link. And by the way, this is a leg x-ray of a friend of ours who suffered a skiing accident a couple weeks ago, and she was kind enough to send us the x-ray, thinking we may be able to use it, and we certainly will, with respect to using the metaphor of the growing economy without many jobs growing along with it. I want to take you back to the September 12th and 13th FOMC meeting, because that day we get a definitive response from the Federal Reserve with respect to the sticky unemployment rate. Let's read it together. If the outlook for the labor market does not improve substantially, the committee will continue its purchases of agency mortgage-backed securities, undertake additional asset purchases, and employ its other policy tools as appropriate until such improvement is achieved in the context of price stability. I mean, there you have it. For those of you on asset liability management committees, for those of you serving the needs of your customers on a daily basis, that pretty much says it all. When will interest rates rise? Interest rates will rise when the unemployment rate reaches the goal set by the Federal Reserve, which we'll see in a minute, as long as inflation isn't breached. So as long as inflation stays below its target and unemployment is above its target, you can expect continued easy money policy by the Federal Reserve to get this jobless rate down. And here's the problem. You've seen this slide in the past. I think it's one of the best representations of the problem of the broken link between economic recovery and jobs. We go back to 1952 here on the left, all the way out to the end of 2012. And these sharp V's, which represent job losses, we're measuring year-over-year change in jobs on the vertical. You can see every time there's a recession in the past, there's a rebound. The economy gets moving again through either fiscal or monetary policy or just some sort of structural reason that there's a change in the economy, and job growth always rebounded up to around the 5% level until sometime around 1984. Recessions after 1984, it seemed we had difficulty rebounding back up to the 5% level. And that's our dilemma today. Because we can't get the job rebound, we're continually pumping liquidity into our economic system to somehow try to get the job rate down. As you can see, history is showing us it's a very difficult, if not impossible, thing to do. Why that red dotted line, which represents the peak of job growth over our last 4 or 5 recessions, is dropping is anybody's guess. I'm guessing China has a lot to do with it. I'm guessing rapid technological change has a lot to do with it. You could probably come up with a number of other reasons as well. Now, with respect to banking and today's lesson, what I want you to realize is the unemployment rate will now be your key economic indicator to watch, because it will induce changes in interest rates. Unemployment, as you now know, is 7.8% as we enter the last week or so of January 2013. And the goal of the Federal Reserve, which was 5.2 to 6% last January 2012, and was amended in December of this year to 6.5. In other words, they're almost looking themselves in the mirror and saying, we're not having a lot of success. Let's change our goal. Let's raise the unemployment rate goal from 6 to 6.5. And if we get to 6.5, that's good enough. The inflation goal has also been increased from 2% to 2.5, again to give them more wriggle room, although they have the 2.5% is a 1 to 2 year forecast view. So as long as the forecast is within the 2.5% range, they're happy. And as you read the fine print, they also want long-term expectations of inflation to be, quote, well anchored. Now, I thought we'd take a minute and go back to the college classroom to really get into the basics of unemployment. What is it? How does somebody become unemployed? How do you get counted as unemployed? And actually, there are pretty strict rules that we use to measure somebody as actually being unemployed and being included in the current 7.8%. Here's what you have to say and do to become unemployed. You have to have actively looked for work in the last 4 weeks. So if you say to the interviewer if you happen to be in the sample, oh, I looked for work 4 months ago, I stopped looking for work, however, in the last 4 weeks, you're not in the labor force. You're not unemployed. So you must have actively sought a job in the last 4 weeks. And when they say active, they mean one of the following you have to admit to have done. If you have not done any of these, you are called not in the labor force. You're really not actively looking. What are those actions that you need to take? They want you to be making contacts, talking to an employer directly, calling about a job, getting the job interview, going to a public or private employment agency qualifies, talk to friends or relatives about an opening where they work, go to a university or school job center and talk to the folks running the jobs programs on campus if there's any openings. You could also qualify to be unemployed if you sent out a resume or filled out some sort of job application. If you called about an advertisement on the internet or the newspaper. You went to a union or professional registry and looked at the openings. And there's some other means, less important means of actively searching for a job. So if you say, yes, I've looked for work in the last 4 weeks, they then make sure you've done one of the following. Now again, continuing our theme of unemployment, I view this slide as pretty important, so pay attention to it if you don't mind. There's 4 kinds of unemployment: structural, frictional, cyclical, and seasonal. Structural unemployment happens when there's just no demand for what the skill is of the worker anymore, and there's a layoff. I like to use the ATM machines as laying off tellers because we have machines that can conduct basic banking. Frictional unemployment happens when people move between cities, they get married or change careers. In the interim, they're unemployed as they try to find work. Cyclical unemployment is the one we're faced with now, we think. This is caused when the demand for goods and services drops because of a recession or an economic slowdown in general. And usually this type of unemployment is inversely related to GDP. There's a 4th kind of unemployment that happens every year all the time at the same time, seasonal unemployment driven by the calendar, and I use the example here of department store clerks being out of favor after the Christmas shopping holidays. Now here's our problem with these 4 types of unemployment. If we're trying to defeat cyclical unemployment, which we are when we tried through massive government spending programs, interest rates taken to 0, and now the quantitative easing methods to try to reduce mortgage rates and other interest rates, that might be effective. Unless much of our unemployment is structural, that's not going to respond very well to the remedies of cyclical unemployment. What you need for structural unemployment to reduce that is job retraining programs, apprenticeship programs, intern programs. Get people retrained for something that is in demand. And this, I think, could be one of the reasons we're having issues. Now, a month ago, the Federal Reserve came out with their latest forecast on unemployment. Let's look at it. They're projecting the unemployment rate in 2013 to be somewhere between 7.4 and 7.7%. 2014, somewhere between 6.8 and 7.3%. And not until 2015 are we going to hit our target of somewhere between 6 and 6.6%. So it now appears that, according to this forecast at least, unemployment is not going to be reduced to the goal for 3 more years, which means as long as inflation stays under control, you can expect low interest rates, 0 interest rates for some time. I thought you'd enjoy seeing how difficult it is to reduce unemployment once it rises very quickly. Here's the unemployment rate on a monthly basis, and this area right here is our last recession. Notice how quickly unemployment can go up. In just a matter of months, unemployment went from about 5% to double digits. But now it's been almost 2.5 years, we still haven't gotten it down. So the speed at which unemployment can rise is not the same as the speed at which it drops. Here's a more difficult chart maybe to see, but one I think will help you understand how difficult it is to get unemployment to its goal, but also remind us that it wasn't very long ago. And again, I'm talking 2005, 2006, 2007, and into at least the first half of 2008, when we had unemployment rates in the 4% range. The Great Recession, as it was called, you can see, took us, 1 month we were double digit. Many of you wonder and question the unemployment rate. You pick all its flaws out and wonder if the Fed is targeting the right unemployment. Well, as you may or may not know, we actually have 6 unemployment rates. U1, U2, U3, U4, U5, and U6. U3 is the official rate. And as you can see, our latest number, we're at 7.8% currently. There's another rate that everyone likes to talk about, sort of the all-encompassing U6 rate. This includes people marginally attached to the labor force. This includes the fact that some part-time workers might actually want to be full-time, and we miss them, counting them. Discouraged workers are included in this group. And it's way down the bottom of the screen. I hope you can see it. If you can't, I'll rewrite it for you. That's currently 14.4%. And many people argue that the real unemployment rate is much higher than the official rate. You can see it's about double. I thought you'd like to see the tremendous variation in unemployment by states. Our lowest unemployment rate last month was in North Dakota, 3.2%. It's the number 1 ranked state in terms of low unemployment. The highest is Nevada. They're still double digit at 10.2%. So if you're a bank in these states where the unemployment rate is below the 7.8 average, I'm guessing your non-performing assets, your loan growth is fairly stable and fairly strong. But if you're in these states with higher than average unemployment, I'm probably guessing you're having difficulty with your loan portfolio. Your underwriting standards are still tight and tough because America clearly isn't the same. We have, as you can see, almost a 7%, full 7 percentage point difference between the lowest unemployment and the highest on a state-by-state basis. Well, that sums it up. A little bit longer maybe than what Jay Brew does, but it was my pleasure to substitute for Jay Brew. And he'll be in next Monday, and he'll be able to give his spiel to you next Monday. Thank you very much.